The Olympic champion is doing something that has divided track and field fans everywhere. Some people think it's genius. Others think it's a massive mistake. Because instead of focusing on the event that made her famous, Keely Hodgkinson is stepping onto the track this weekend to race the 400 meters against Britain's fastest one-lap specialists. And now the biggest question in athletics is simple. What exactly is she trying to prove? For years, critics have said the same thing about Keely Hodgkinson. She's an incredible 800-meter runner. But she doesn't have world-class speed. Well, Keely just heard those comments and decided to challenge them head-on. At the UK Athletics Championships in Birmingham, the Olympic 800-meter queen is abandoning her comfort zone and diving straight into one of the most brutal sprint events in track and field. And she's not racing against average athletes. She's lining up against British record holder Amber Anning, against national champions, against Olympic relay medalists, against women who specialize in pure speed. Athletes who spend their entire careers mastering a single lap around the track. Meanwhile, Keely built her reputation over 2 laps. So why would she risk it? Because according to Keely, this isn't just about the 400. It's about something much bigger. The outdoor 800-meter world record, a mark that has survived for more than 4 decades. A record many experts once believed would never fall. And Keely thinks speed is the missing piece. She recently ran a personal best of 51.41 seconds over 400 meters. Not bad for an athlete whose main event is double the distance. But here's where things get scary. Just 3 days after that race, she returned to the 800 meters and produced one of the fastest performances in British history. Suddenly, people started wondering, what happens if Keely gets even faster? What happens if that opening lap becomes even more dangerous? Because the athlete that rivals feared before may not be the athlete they face in a few months. And this comes after one of the toughest periods of her career. A hamstring injury ruined huge parts of her 2025 season. She missed training, missed momentum, and eventually settled for bronze at the World Championships. For many athletes, that would have been the beginning of a decline. Instead, Keely came back stronger. She broke the indoor 800-meter world record, won global titles, and most importantly, stayed healthy. Now she says she hasn't missed a training session in over a year. That's the part that should worry everyone else. Because a healthy Keely Hodgkinson might be the most dangerous version we've ever seen. But here's the controversial part. Not everyone believes this experiment will work. Some fans argue that racing the 400 is a distraction. Others think she's risking fatigue and injury chasing speed she may not even need. And if she struggles this weekend, those critics will get even louder. But if she wins, or even comes close against Britain's best 400-meter runners, the conversation changes completely. Suddenly, the athlete people claimed had no speed becomes one of the fastest women in the country. And suddenly, that 40-year-old world record starts looking vulnerable. Very vulnerable. So this weekend isn't really about a 400-meter race. It's about a warning to every woman lining up against Keely Hodgkinson this season. Because if this speed experiment works, the rest of the world may have a very serious problem. And the chase for one of athletics' most untouchable records could be about to begin.
For the first few steps, it looked like the Olympic champion might be in trouble. The start wasn't clean, the field was closing, and for a moment in Oslo, Julien Alfred looked vulnerable. But then, something happened that should worry every woman in sprinting. Because once Alfred found her rhythm, the race was over. And the scary part, the massive time on the clock wasn't even the biggest story. Julien Alfred arrived at the Oslo Diamond League carrying enormous expectations. After all, this is the woman who changed the history of St. Lucia forever. In Paris, she stormed to Olympic gold in the 100 meters with a stunning 10.72, the first Olympic medal ever for her country. Then she added Olympic silver in the 200 meters. Since then, she hasn't just been another champion, she's become the athlete everyone is chasing, and in Oslo, she had another chance to prove why. The result looked impressive immediately. Alfred crossed the line first in 10.76 seconds. Amy Hunt of Great Britain finished second in 10.99. Zoe Hobbs of New Zealand took third in 11.03. But if you only look at the final result, you miss what really happened. Because Alfred didn't dominate from the gun. In fact, her start created a real problem. The 100 meters is brutal. There's no curve to settle into, no extra distance to recover. One mistake can cost everything. And for the opening moments of this race, Amy Hunt looked ready to capitalize. The Olympic champion wasn't fully in control. The pressure was real. But that's when Alfred showed why she's becoming one of the most dangerous sprinters in the world. She didn't panic. She didn't force the race. She stayed relaxed, stayed composed, and gradually began building speed meter by meter, step by step. The gap started disappearing. Then suddenly, the race belonged to her again. By the final meters, Alfred had completely taken control, not because she started perfectly, because she recovered perfectly, and that's what should scare her rivals. A perfect athlete is dangerous. But an athlete who can make mistakes and still win, that's even worse. Now let's talk about the time. Because when the clock flashed 10.76 seconds, fans immediately exploded. But there's an important detail. The race was wind-assisted. Track and field has a strict rule. For a sprint mark to be considered legal, the wind cannot exceed 2.0 meters per second. In Oslo, the wind was above that limit. So officially, the time won't count as a personal best. It won't count for record books, and it won't replace her Olympic-winning 10.72. But that doesn't mean the performance was meaningless. Far from it. The wind may have helped the clock, but it didn't choose the winner. It didn't fix her start. It didn't keep her calm under pressure, and it certainly didn't produce her closing speed. Every athlete in the race had the same wind. Only one athlete handled the race like a champion, Julien Alfred. And that's why Oslo matters. Not because of the number, because of what the race revealed. It showed her body is sharp. It showed her finishing speed is improving. And it showed that even after a shaky beginning, she can still find a way to win. That trend actually started before Oslo. Just days earlier in Rome, Alfred defeated Melissa Jefferson Wooden in the 200 meters. After that race, she talked about feeling stronger and healthier, about being able to push harder through the second half of races. Oslo looked exactly like that. The deeper the race went, the stronger she became. And that's a terrifying sign for the rest of the sprint world, because the biggest challenges are still ahead. Melissa Jefferson Wooden wants revenge. Sha'Carri Richardson remains a major threat. Gabby Thomas is waiting in the 200 meters, and Shericka Jackson is still one of the most dangerous women in track and field. The season's biggest battles haven't happened yet, but Oslo sent a message. Julien Alfred doesn't need a perfect race to beat you. She can start behind, she can make mistakes, she can face pressure, and she can still find a way to win. The 10.76 may come with an asterisk, but the warning it sent to the rest of women's sprinting was crystal clear. If Julien Alfred keeps finishing races like this, the rest of the world may be running out of time to stop her.